through that Zamazenta V's Dauntless Shield ability. So we'll see if David can play himself into another situation just like that, and what Azul could do to play around that potential out for David.
There are tons of lines that both of these players are going to play. I'm excited. I don't know about you, Chip, but we are ready to go ahead and get into this match, ladies and gentlemen. Let's go ahead and throw it down to both these players. Some things to point out just from what we saw yesterday, right? We followed this same matchup, the same 60 cards playing against each other, right? The big thing there that we saw in game one, I believe, when Mike was able to win that game, was how crucial it was when David benched those one prize Pokemon, like that Cryogonal playing in the list, like that Oranguru. It just opens up such an easier path to victory, allowing you to knock out this Arceus-style Gunpolkia, then one of those one prizes, then taking an easy two prizes on maybe a support Pokemon on the bench. So it's going to be big. David wants to avoid playing down as many of those one prize Pokemon. He wants to avoid that as much as possible here, as David, I believe, is going to be going second, if I saw that correctly, has the Energy Spinner in hand. Actually, no, going first. So exactly what you want if you're David. Has the Energy Spinner to start things off. Will guarantee the Water Energy. Has the Quick Ball for that Zacian V. Chip, this is looking like an ADP start that you love to see.
Definitely a solid start for David. Going to go ahead and get that water energy attachment. You know your opponent is not playing Crushing Hammer, so you don't have to worry about that getting discarded potentially. And you can go ahead and quick ball for a Zacian here. Get off a big Intrepid Sword. Draw yourself up some cards. And, I mean, David in a decent spot here to maybe play this game out the exact same way we saw him play out game number 3 against Mike, where the only Pokemon he had in play was a ADP, a Zacian, and then eventually the Zamazenta. So I'll be interested to see if that's the line David goes for here. Already has that turn 2 Altered Creation lined up with the Metal Energy in hand. That is, of course, unless Azul drops a Marnie.
Yeah, as silly as it sounds, I think the big key in this match, it actually comes down to the coin flip, right? If Azul is able to go first in this match, able to apply pressure and not let this Arceus-style Gunpolkia get an Ultimate Ray off, it gets a lot easier for Azul. But pretty much acknowledging this Arceus-style Gunpolkia will be able to get an Ultimate Ray. There is no way that Azul can put together 280 damage in just 2 turns, pretty much. So, gonna start things off with a Stellar Wish. Quick Ball is gonna get rid of those tech Pokemon in this deck, right? That Jirachi GX in there for those Psychic-type decks, like the Mewtwo and Mew Firebox deck we were able to feature yesterday. It's gonna be able to search out something like this Rapid Strike Urshifu V if that's in the deck. Could also find one of those support Pokemon. Azul obviously wants to avoid playing down those cards like the Dene GX, like Crobat GX, that this Arceus-style Gunpolkia deck loves to prey on.
Absolutely. So we'll see what Azul is going to grab here. Definitely taking time to check the prizes here. Wants to make sure he is totally aware of what he's going to have access to through the rest of this game, what he's not going to have access to, and what he can be hoping to take off the prize cards. And that's definitely something that you'll see the best players doing, because it also allows you to make different plays potentially later in the game. Like, say you prized a high percentage of your energy. You can take a knockout in a spot you maybe wouldn't otherwise, knowing that there's a decent shot that you'll have an energy in hand for the next turn. Same can be said for, you know, if you prize like a high amount of your draw support options like researches and the Denes and stuff like that, right? Because then you can play yourself down to a low hand size where you don't actually have any good draw support options, because you know that you have a high % chance to take one of those draw pieces off of the prize cards.
Yeah, and smart choice from Azul is really prioritizing that strafe attack. And the reason for doing that is in combination with something like a Gale Thrust, it actually sets the math up for G-Max Rapid Flow to take a knockout on this Arceus-style Gunpolkia. Again, you want to deal with this the best way possible, but you also want to put together a game plan to deal with the rest of the Pokemon in play, as David is not going to utilize that Quick Ball, instead going to go for a Marnie. Does find a solid set of cards, the Rusted Sword to attach to that Zacian, has some support Pokemon for the following turn, but I think David is just going to be content taking the turn to utilize Altered Creation GX. Chip, as we've explained before, possibly the best GX attack ever printed on a tag team card.
One of the best attacks, I mean, outside of tag teams, just in the game in general, right? Altered Creation letting you take that extra prize card and also boosting your damage for the remainder of the game for all of your Pokemon. An absolutely insane effect. We've never seen anything like it. And it's no surprise that as long as Cosmic Eclipse has been in the standard format, Arceus-style Gunpolkia has been a threat to be reckoned with.
Yeah, looks like action on Azul. Pokemon Communication is a great card you want to see will allow Azul to find that Urshifu VMAX if he so chooses to. We obviously don't know what the rest of the hand looks like, but there it is. The Urshifu VMAX coming down into play will allow Azul to deal that full damage from Gale Thrust if he is able to find the cards like Switch, but we see him actually discard a Switch off of that Quick Ball, which makes me think the rest of that hand is very solid. We actually see him opt to go for the Escape Rope here, a very interesting line of play that's going to allow him to deal the damage to this Zacian V instead of this Arceus Dialga Palkia. What do you think about this play, Chip?
I kind of like it. I mean, David put this Rusted Sword onto the active, so he's very limited in switch options. Of course, with the release of Battle Styles, basically all of the ADP lists have kind of opted away from the switch cards that we normally would see and tried to tech in those escape ropes. We actually see David is still playing the 3 copies of Switch here, but is going to be forced to dig for one of those pieces to get an attack off here, since he did attach this Rusted Sword.
Yeah, so interesting things to point out. Azul is going to utilize G-Max Rapid Flow right away. Instead of maybe going for something like a Gale Thrust, wants to try to string those together as quickly as possible, as we do see a Marnie get played. It's going to find some key cards here for David, has the Zamazenta, as we pointed out. Such a crucial card in this matchup. It looks like only 2 Switch in the deck, so this is where we see most Arceus Dialga and Palkia decks are playing those 3 copies of Switch, 4, but David is going for a little bit less, so could be punished here if he is unable to find that Switch, and is actually going to get punished for attaching that Rusted Sword, cannot utilize the Air Balloon, and this is going to essentially give Azul an extra turn here. You've got to be feeling happy here if you're Azul. Get an extra turn to apply some damage, pressure, and build your board up.
Definitely. I mean, there's really no benefit, I think, to having the Rusted Sword in play in this matchup. It's really here for those tag team matchups, being able to let you pick up one-hit KOs on, tag team Pokemon, mainly the Mewtwo and Mew, opposing ADPs in the ADP mirror match. But, when it comes to this matchup, it really can kind of be a liability, since it doesn't allow you to attach an Air Balloon, which we see David was able to draw into, but unable to attach.
Yeah, once a tool card is on a Pokemon, it is stuck there. Can't change it out, and I'm sure David very frustrated that was the draw and was unable to get something off like an Ultimate Ray, which I think would definitely put the tempo in his favor, as we do see Air Balloon come down in addition to a Martial Arts Dojo, and there is the 3rd Rapid Strike Energy, as Professor's Research will get rid of some other cards, opting to actually not play the Marnie with David's pretty sizable hand. Interesting choice. But I think Azul just prioritizing the card draw, wants to draw into as many cards as possible here, has the guaranteed knockout on to the active with Gale Thrust, will be able to apply pressure there, and because David was forced to play the Dene down chip, I don't know if this Zamazenta is going to be able to put in as much work as David wants to.
Definitely. I really would have loved to have seen David go for that Zamazenta super early on, but also at the same time, Azul had to put his own Dene GX in play here. So, I mean, you definitely can't count David out at this point. We're just, a Boss's Orders Altered Creation plus a Mawile with another Boss's Orders away from David being able to close this game out. And that's something I definitely think I would love to see David go for in this situation. Azul has a pretty sizable hand here. We haven't seen anything like a Quick Ball played, which I think Azul would utilize to discard things like Crobat or Dedenne from hand to play around a potential Mawile. So I think this is probably about as good a time as any to go for that Captivating Wink.
Captivating Wing, such a powerful ability.
Oh, yeah.
Sees so much play in this, reminiscent of the Captivating Pokepuff released a while ago in Steam Siege. We've seen abilities like this a bunch of times throughout the history of the Pokemon trading card game, being able to search out your opponent's hand, find specific cards. It's a very cool concept that you love to see, as we do see the Jirachi is going to pivot out of the active with the switch. We do see that Rapid Strike Energy, which means Gale Thrust is online and active, is going to be dealing that full effect for 150 damage, as the Great Catcher as well is going to be able to bring up this benched Arceus, Dialga, and Palkia. A big draw here for Azul. Will be able to get that Ultimate Ray off the board, put himself in a solid spot, and even threaten the game next turn with something else like a Boss's Orders.
Huge plays there from Azul, able to take the only threat on David's side out of play. And it is very difficult at this point with this specific hand for David really to do much. You're going to have to attach to this Zacian V and probably try to find yourself the pieces to find a boss's orders, which is going to involve you using Dead Age Change. You also have the Great Catcher out in deck, but we are going to see the Mawile. Let's see if there are any of those support Pokemon sitting in Azul's hand. Sure enough, Captivating Wink going to hit that Dedenne GX, as well as another Rapid Strike Urshifu, bring those guys down to the bench. So it'll kind of be on to Azul to close the game out on this coming turn, I feel like, assuming David is able to get this knockout. But actually, interestingly enough, gonna attach to the Zamazenta here. Zamazenta, even though you're getting boosted damage from the Altered Creation, the Dedenne GX is resistant to metal, so would not be able to pick up the KO. So I feel like the play from David here is just to kind of try to wall behind this Zamazenta a little bit and maybe try to build your hand size back up.
Yeah, I think more importantly, wants to get rid of that Rapid Strike energy on Azul's active, because that way Azul would have no way to close out the game the following turn is the main thought, as we are going to see the Marnie get grabbed off of the Eldegoss, utilizing that to grab any supporter out of this card pile as Tool Scrapper. Again, another interesting inclusion into David's list. Plays a bunch of interesting copies of cards, like even that one reset stand, as does find that Chaotic Swell, so can remove that Martial Arts Dojo from play, and I think we're going to see an Assault Tackle is also not even setting up a 2-hit knockout onto this Urshifu VMAX. We'll have to attack 3 times in order to finish that thing off.
Yeah, kind of crazy to say that if you're attacking after an Altered Creation, you're still not setting up a 2-hit KO. Zamazenta definitely quite a bit weaker of an attacker compared to Zacian, but where it really does shine is that ability in Dauntless Shield, and that's where we're going to have to see Azul try to play around in this spot. Was limited to just 4 cards and has all of those support Pokemon in play, so there is a good chance that we could see exactly what just happened happen, where Azul just has to pass the turn, and we'll see yet another attack here from the Zamazenta.
Yeah, at the same time, David not really threatening anything with this hand. It's pretty weak. Azul's got a few turns to make something happen. Wants to get that Urshifu out of the active as soon as possible. 5 cards in hand. We just see how disruptive Marnie can be in the late game when your opponent's down. There's supporter cards, there's search options, there's switch options. But here we see Pokemon communication, so it will be able to find Azul a card out of the deck. But again, that bench is full, so we'll need to combine this with something like maybe a Scoop Up Net or something else to free up a bench spot. Only has 1 target to get out of play in that Jirachi. We are going to see this actually grab yet another Jirachi. So throwing something back in, grabbing something out, and is going to have to pass the turn over. You hate to see it, Chip. This Zamazenta will be able to take a knockout, and then on top of that, Azul is still in an alright spot. We'll have the ability to Stellar Wish the next turn. If Azul can find the pieces to get that last Rapid Strike energy in play and the boss's orders, even with Azul going to be down to just 1 more turn, essentially, right? Your opponent's now threatening the game the following turn with something like a boss's orders in combination with the small Mawile. If 1 more Pokemon gets played down, you still have a fair shot, right? You still have a fair shot to put yourself in a position to win this game.
Yeah, I mean, David only needing to knock out Jirachi at this point to take the final 2 prize cards. So it's really going to be on to Azul this turn, I feel like. You either got to try to get that Jirachi out of play with a Scoop Up Net or just go for the win. You need to find the Rapid Strike energy plus a boss's orders or potentially that Karate Belt. This is huge here, and Azul playing it before the Stellar Wish. Does that mean, yes, indeed, he has the boss's orders? Azul, after doing nothing for multiple turns here, has the exact combination of cards to win the game. That's absolutely insane. Able to bring up that Dedenne GX and take a knockout on that Zacian V on the bench. Huge turn for Azul there. Seemed like he was in a bad spot. Was able to still close it out and win game number 1.
Yeah, I feel like that's the Azul bluff there. Felt like he had nothing in hand, right? When your opponents draw passing, you're like, oh, their hand's weak. Yep. Meanwhile, Azul was fooling us all, had all the pieces pretty much in hand to get the things needed, the energy, the Karate Belt. So I think it was actually waiting on that Zamazenta to take a knockout to activate Karate Belt. So again, a very smart play from Azul. A close game there, though. Came down to the wire, Chip. Adjustments for any of these players. Is there anything they could do to put themselves in a better spot? Or do you think that game pretty much unfolded how both players wanted to, just maybe a turn too early?
Yeah, I mean, I think if David has the opportunity like he had in that game, I really want to see him try to commit more to the Zamazenta strategy without putting multiple Pokemon in play. Sure, that gives Azul the option, of course, to attack with the Rapid Strike Urshifu V, but that is much, much weaker than the VMAX. It has way less HP, and you're discarding the energy potentially attached to it as well. So I mean, David had an awesome opportunity to go for that play, decided to go a different route, and obviously did not work out for him in this game. We'll see if he makes that adjustment moving into game number 2.
Wise words, Chip. We're ready to go ahead and get into game number 2 between both these players. Again, so crucial, being a loser's bracket match. David's got to win this game or he will be eliminated from the tournament. Looks like Azul will be going ahead and starting things out, going second. David obviously taking the loss game 1, so we'll be able to choose whether or not to go first or second. Is going to opt to go ahead and go first. This Arceus style Poké deck, Chip loves to go first. It wants to get that Alter Creation off as soon as turn 2.
Definitely, and David's hand is not the best here. Oh, but a Cherish Ball top deck does bail him out a little bit. Will get the attachment onto an Arceus Dialga Palkia, and of course you've got that Intrepid Sword option. Like I said, I really want to see David go for that Zamazenta line in this game, as we do see the Quick Ball drawn off of this Intrepid Sword, so he'll have that option. We'll have to see if that's what he opts to go with in this spot.
Yeah, what a big top deck in Cherish Ball allows David to get that turn 1 attachment to that Arceus Dialga Palkia. Again, wants to get Alter Creation up as quickly as possible. As Azul, interesting choice to not go ahead and start something like that Urshifu V. Had 2 in hand, is going to utilize Crobat here to draw even more cards, fill that hand up back to 6 Dark Assets. Such a powerful ability in the standard format. Azul has a few options, but is actually going to go ahead and switch into this Urshifu V. Wants to prioritize getting some chip damage in with something like the Strafe. Can deal some solid damage to the Zacian and maybe set up for a potential knockout later on in the game. As we also will see Quick Ball grab a Jirachi, so this is a perfect target for Azul to go ahead and strafe into.
Definitely. I mean, Azul could have also switched into the Jirachi to utilize the Stellar Wish right away, but I like this option as well. Get some damage in play, which is definitely something that could be relevant here. So let's see, hear from David. Is he going to go for the Zamazenta line of play? We see that is the thing that he's eyeing up. Maybe remembering back to that game against Mike, recognizing that Azul and Mike are playing the same list and knew how good the Zamazenta was in that instance for him. So like to see him playing to this out, and going to have to play this Marnie and going to have to find one of the switch cards to get off the Altered Creation here.
Yeah, only playing 3 switch in the list, a little bit less than most of these lists, but finds 2 copies of
there
it
you go.
Off of the Marty. Hey, never punished. Finds the switching cards to get this Alter Creation off. One of the most powerful attacks in the game. I would say the most powerful GX attack right now out of the tag team Pokemon, as Action will be back on Azul. David is going to be dealing 30 more damage and taking an extra prize card every time a Pokemon gets knocked out, as Azul will find a scoop up net off of that Stellar Wish. Is going to utilize that right away to get the Jirachi out of the active. Is going to go into this Urshifu V without the energy on it, and it's going to be perfect. Has the air balloon in hand. The Pokemon communications will allow Azul to find that Urshifu VMAX and start attacking as soon as this turn.
Definitely. Very solid. Going to get that pivot into the VMAX. Can go ahead and get a big swing off here. And also has a research to go along with it, so can continue to establish the board. We see from David has a very strong hand. Energy plus Boss's Orders, pretty much all you really want to see as the ADP player on your turn after you just used Altered Creation, when your opponent has things like Crobat and Dedenne in play. We do see Azul able to find that extra energy and going to go ahead and go for the G-Max Rapid Flow. Wants to set up some damage on a couple of different Pokemon here. And we'll see David going to go ahead and eye up this Crobat and take these 3 prize cards, and this also, does a few things here. It makes it so it's much more difficult for Azul to ever draw, through his deck more efficiently, right? Because he really is going to want to avoid putting the Dedenne GX in play.
Yeah, a big-time draw off that Marnie. Drew into pretty much the perfect hand there. Boss's Orders and Energy. As you said, Azul really cannot safely play down something like the Dedenne. Obviously, something like the Mawile with Captivating Wink could go ahead and grab that, but I think David is going to just prioritize utilizing Zamazenta to the fullest ability here, as David will take the first 3 prize cards of the game. Azul is still in a solid spot, right? This ADP in the active will have 10 HP remaining if it takes something like a Gale Thrust, but the more important thing to really look at this point is Zigzagoon can finish that off, being able to deal 10 damage anywhere with that Headbutt Tantrum. Azul, just eyeing up the options, has several options to go with here. Has the pivoting out with this active Urshifu V with the air balloon, has the ability to hit with something like a G-Max Rapid Flow the following turn, but we see the active energy attachment and the Boss's Orders. If Azul has the Fighting Arts Dojo, he does, which means this will be just enough damage to take the knockout onto the Zacian V and switch into something like that Mimikyu, which can give up only 2 prize cards with that Alter Creation boosted effect. What a smart play from Azul, really utilizing that, and more importantly is starting to build up this V on the bench.
Yeah, definitely. Very well timed out, very well mathed out as well for Azul, able to figure out that perfect math to deal exactly 220 damage to the Zamazenta. David's kind of in an interesting spot here. You could bench the Zacian V because, you have the Zamazenta that's a, wall. Your opponent, can't really hit into it with anything besides an Urshifu V. And if they ever attack with the Urshifu V and you power up the Zamazenta, you just take the knockout with Zamazenta for the game. So that could have been an interesting option. But as we actually see, David had no energies left in the deck. So wisely choosing not to put the Zacian V into play. Wants to make sure that if it comes into play, it's going to be on a turn where you're putting a bunch of energies on it.
Yeah, exactly. Draws into some nice draw supporters off of the prizes. It's down to one prize card. This could be a great turn where Azul utilizes that one copy of Reset Stamp left in the deck, does play that one copy. Martial Arts Dojo also still online, so we'll be dealing boosted damage. So now Azul does not need to find something like that Zigzagoon. Could also start to target down this Zamazenta on the bench and deal boosted damage. It's not really as relevant, right? You are still setting up a 2-hit knockout onto the Zamazenta with that 100 Fist Blows on that Urshifu V. But again, it's just more options, right, that Azul can utilize at this point. We'll be able to utilize that Martial Arts Dojo at least this turn, right? If you do take a knockout on this Arceus Dialga and Palkia on the bench, then things can get tricky because now you're both at one prize card. You can't utilize Martial Arts Dojo to the full effect. So Azul is going to go ahead and attach that Rapid Strike energy to the bench. Again, wants to just open up as many options as possible. Interesting choice to not go on the active necessarily, but is actually going to be forced to play into Dene GX down. Azul needs to find that reset stamp here to put David's hand down low. Is going to really prioritize that, especially playing at the Dene GX down. Such an easy target for David to be able to finish off if this Arceus Dialga and Palkia stays alive, but I don't think it will be, especially with that bench Urshifu VMAX being able to deal enough damage to take a knockout. So maybe this is a safe play. As you pointed out, that Dene has resistance to Zamazenta. So even with the boosted Alter Creation, it will not be enough damage to take a knockout.
Yeah, I think David's going to have some turns, though, with this Zamazenta. You can just try to get like a 2-hit KO on something potentially and really go from there. Azul here, Quick Balls finds the Giratina. You need the Zigzagoon here in order to get this knockout. Martial Arts Dojo only does boosted damage for Pokemon that have basic fighting energy attached to them. So Rapid Strike energy not fulfilling that requirement. So would be 10 damage short of picking up this KO if that is the option Azul is going with. We are going to see the Marnie as well. And I think that with Azul playing that Quick Ball, not getting Zigzagoon, I'm pretty sure that that means that the Galarian Zigzagoon is in the prize cards. And also that Reset Stamp, I believe it got discarded on turn 1, Ethan. So while it would be a great card to have in this spot, it's not going to be an option Azul can find here. And it's just going to have to settle for a Marnie as the disruption option.
This is so poor at this point, especially when you allow ADP to get off another Ultimate Ray, as Tool Scrapper will go ahead and get rid of both tool cards on Azul's side. Is going to get rid of that Karate Belt in addition to that benched Air Balloon, as David's going to play an Air Balloon of his own. I think just deciding which target to play it on, as I'm sure we are going to see this Professor's Research get played. He's going to go ahead and throw that on to the active ADP, and here we go. Big 7 cards. The Great Catcher at the bottom of the deck will not be able to draw into that, but something like a Quick Ball could actually reorganize the deck up if David wants to push for that this turn. It looks like he is going to go ahead, and looks like considering it, right? It is a risk to play the Dene down, so honestly, I would like a lot more for David to play a little bit more passively this turn, right? Take the turn to take a hit into this active, then you can maybe dig the following turn, but it just feels really risky to go with something like this Crobat, especially when your opponent can set up game the following turn. I think David understands that, is going to go ahead and retreat 1 energy to that Air Balloon, making that retreat cost 2 less. And there we see it, the Assault Tackle, dealing 160 damage, but also I would say more importantly, in addition to that, getting rid of that Rapid Strike energy. Such a powerful effect for an attack that does maybe not the most damage in this deck.
Yeah, definitely. And we see David going to go ahead and prep that Eldegoss in hand. So Azul knows that, if he's not able to find the Zigzagoon, or at minimum, like a boss's orders to knock out that Arceus Dialga Palkia, David's just got game in hand, unless we even see like a Marnie to disrupt. But we will see the escape rope here, forcing that Arceus Dialga Palkia into the active spot, and a strafe, sending this Urshifu V safely back to the bench. And, I mean, Davide is still a couple of turns away here. Boss's Orders is not quite going to be able to do it. Of course, that Urshifu VMAX on the bench having 170 HP remaining when you're only dealing 160.
Yeah, I think the big thing to note here is Azul's still not out of it, right? What can happen at this point is if the Zamazenta goes for an Assault Tackle onto this active, we could just see Azul make a play where, oh, never mind, that's not possible. There are 2 VMAX in the discard pile, so the Zamazenta could just be safe to go for something like an Assault Tackle, followed up by Boss's Orders, right? If you VMAX, you obviously give yourself more HP, it then pretty much puts you away from that. I think Davide notices that. He understands that both other VMAXs are in the discard pile, so a nice heads-up play here. Azul's got to put something together. He's got to put together another Marnie at this point. You know your opponent has the Eldegoss. They grabbed it off of the Quick Ball. It's public knowledge. You know they have it, and you're pretty much accepting defeat if you're unable to disrupt Davide's hand here. As Quick Ball will go ahead and get rid of that Jirachi GX in the hand. Azul still, I believe, has another copy of the Dene GX. He's actually going to go ahead and grab the Giratina. It looks like thinning some cards out of the deck. We will see if there is something like a Marnie in combination with the switches. We see that come down. Does he have it here? Oh, there is another Rapid Strike Energy and a Marnie. This is a big turn.
Huge.
The other Rapid Strike Energy also means this Assault Tackle, while it will get rid of one, will allow this Urshifu V to attack the following turn. Do we see the boss? No boss right away, but there is the Quick Ball in hand, actually, so that will guarantee Davide the game here. Has Quick Ball for the Eldegoss. Eldegoss will be able to come down onto the bench. Happy Match will be able to grab that Boss's Orders, and we're going to be going to a game 3 here, Chip.
Yeah, definitely. And Davide made a huge adjustment in game number 2. Went with that Zamazenta strategy, and it paid off. It paid off big time. Azul definitely was in a winning position there in the last turns. If he doesn't Marnie his opponent into outs to find the Boss's Orders, then, you know, you very realistically win that game, especially with stacking the Rapid Strike energies onto that single Urshifu, meaning that Assault Tackle can't totally disrupt your Urshifu, right? So it definitely paid off for Davide in the end game. Had so many outs left in the deck. I mean, that's what happens when you don't use your early turns to play things like the Dene GX and the Eldegoss and stuff like that. You don't have to play that many Quick Balls. They're just outs for you in the late game when your opponent does inevitably reset stamp or Marnie you.
Yeah, I think the big key in that match, Azul was down that reset stamp. That could have been very powerful.
Oh,
especially when this Orchid-style Poké deck usually can draw out of dead hands with something like Zacian. Obviously does not want to play that down. Wants to go with that lone Zamazenta. It worked out great for Davide. Chip. Do you think that's the way to go in this match? Is this going to be how Davide needs to play this in order to secure game 3? I want to hear your thoughts on this.
I mean, we've seen Davide at this point win 3 games against this specific list, and 2 of those 3 games, he went for the Zamazenta strategy. And, you know, we'll have to see if that's what he opts to go for again, because I really feel like it is strong. It is a little difficult. Your hand does have to be set up pretty perfectly for that to happen, for you not to have to dig with something like a Dene GX in order to find the energy, because you do still, of course, want to get the turn 1 or turn 2 Altered Creation if you can. And almost certainly Davide will be going second in this game as well, since I'm sure Azul will be opting to go first. So we'll see if Davide, you know, maybe extends a little bit and does try to go for that turn 1 Altered Creation, or if he plays it a little slow and just kind of, you know, goes for a similar strategy with the Zamazenta.
This is a big match, Chip. Winner moves on, loser goes home. We can't stress it enough. The loser's bracket is so scary for these competitors. There is no room for error. These players have to be on their game, playing their best. Let's go ahead, Chip. I'm excited. Let's go ahead and jump down into game number 3 between both of these players. Azul going first is big here, Chip. This means that Azul can potentially put together the cards to stop this ADP from getting off an Ultimate Ray. Do you think that's a step in the right direction here for Azul?
Yeah, definitely. And we actually see kind of an interesting option for Davide. Has the Cryogonal in the opening hand. I don't know that I want to see this come into play. What can happen is you allow your opponent to get a knockout on an ADP, knockout on this, and then a knockout on a 2-prizer to close the game out. But I think Davide really valuing the Mawile GX here. So we might just see kind of the more traditional strategy, right? Trying to go for that boss KO and, you know, maybe try to get some Pokemon in play on Azul's side with the Mawile GX.
Yeah, and smartly from Azul, if you've been wondering, well, why do I not start my main Pokemon in this matchup? I want to utilize Urshifu. It's actually smart to have it sit on the bench because there is a world where Davide is able to get a turn 1 knockout with something like Double Metal Saucer in combination with an attachment. So this is a very heads-up play for Azul. Again, Azul, very seasoned, has been playing for years and years in the game, knows what he's doing. I really have to agree with you, Chip. The Cryogonal is so scary. We saw how that Rapid Strike Urshifu deck was able to take a game off of David in the winner's bracket when David did play that Cryogonal down. So I have to imagine here, especially with this hand, you're going to be forced to play down a 2-prize Pokemon that's not a Zamazenta. This could be very scary, Chip. As we do see, looks like eyeing up a potential water energy. Has so many options to go, but we're actually just going to see the frozen lock on this Cryogonal. It's going to deal 10 damage to the active Zigzagoon, and also, more importantly, is going to prevent Azul from playing any item cards this turn. It just opens up so many more options.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, the Frozen Lock is a great option. It really makes it much more difficult for Azul to get off an attack this turn. You have to get the energy attachment, hard retreat, with the basic fighting energy, and get the VMAX in play as well. And if you do that, you're in a solid spot. Also, David, with this play, would be down a water energy, but as we can see, Azul being item locked here, actually just kind of in a tough spot. Gonna just have to use the passive boss's orders. Never something you love to see. Usually you want to be aggressive with your boss's orders whenever you're using them to take knockouts. Definitely not the case here.
I think this is fine at this point. Right now, you force David to find that energy switch, has to now dig through the deck, and when your opponent's playing Dedenne down, you're pretty content with that, especially when you can get something off like a Gale Thrust the following turn. So this is where it's going to be big. Does find the energy switch in combination with that metal energy, so he will be able to see David get off an Alter Creation. Yeah, cannot stress that enough. That is a big time draw for David, but it's not out of the woods yet. The big thing here is that there are those 2-prize and 1-prize weak Pokemon on the bench. Cryogonal, having less than 120 HP, can be knocked out by something like that Gmax Rapid Flow. The Dene GX, also weak. We could see a 3-prize turn even, where we see that Dene get bossed up or Great Catchered up, and then Gmax Rapid Flow knock out the Dene in combination with the Cryogonals. There we go. Alter Creation on the second turn of the game. It's going to be on Azul to have a response. We'll be able to play item cards this turn, so I assume we'll have a lot more options to put together, and it's going to be a big turn. Azul's got to put some pressure on to this Arceus Dialga Palkia. Starts things out with a martial arts dojo, so we'll be able to boost damage up a little bit more. There's the Zigzagoon. We'll be able to retreat into this Urshifu, but it looks like not much, though. Has that attack. 100 Fist Blows will deal 160 damage, so could set up next turn for something like that Urshifu VMAX to take a knockout with that Gmax Rapid Flow. But again, it feels really poor to not be able to find that VMAX, and we are going to see Ultimate Ray deal 180 damage, but more importantly is also going to accelerate 3 Metal Energy out of the deck.
Yeah, huge. Going to go ahead and set up that Zacian V, and man, this is really, really bad for Azul here. I mean, you're definitely, hoping for a strong top deck here to keep you in this game, because this is a bad situation. You're definitely not out of it. And speaking of a big top deck, Professor's Research going to be able to discard that hand that was definitely not very strong. We saw Reset Stamp, Mimikyu, and Giratina. Not very good at all. Research able to bail Azul out a little bit here. I mean, and like we said, Azul's prizes are kind of mapped out very nicely for him here. He can take this 3-prize knockout on the Arceus Dialga Palkia, and then all you have to do is G-Max Rapid Flow, the Dedenne GX, and the Cryogonal, and that would close out the game in your favor.
Yeah, this is also smart to not go ahead and VMAX. It opens up more opportunities for something like Boss's Orders to take a knockout on Zigzagoon. So a very smart play from Azul. Most players would say, well, I can Gmax Rapid Flow right now, but it's, again, just so scary. It puts more pressure on Azul to find the pieces necessary the following turn, as David has had a pretty solid hand here, has the Zacian all powered up. We could even see something like this Cryogonal take a knockout if there is that 3rd water energy left in deck, and item lock Azul, as it is dealing just enough damage with boosted Alter Creation.
Oh, that would be super
40
good.
Damage in item lock, especially in combination with a Reset Stamp. If David can find these cards, Chip, this may be the best play we've seen so far today. Item locking and taking a knockout, but we'll have to see if David sees that line of play, grabs the Dene there off of that Ball Surge, is actually going to go ahead and it looks like consider going ahead and attacking. I think wants to maybe keep this hand, as it will give him more outs for the following turn. but is eyeing up that dojo, right? That dojo is very scary, boosting the damage of your opponent's Pokemon if they're behind on prize cards, but it is going to be a tie in prizes after this knockout, as Brave Blade will be dealing 230 damage, 260 with Alter Creation, plenty to take out this Urshifu. VMAX 290 actually has that Rusted Sword as well. It's going to be on Azul. Can Azul find the pieces? Only 3 cards left in hand. It's really scary to have to bench down these multi-prize Pokemon. Needs to find that energy card. It could be the Fighting Energy or the Rapid Strike Energy. That Urshifu VMAX and the Boss's Orders also now needs a way to pivot out of this Zigzagoon. This is going to be a big turn for Azul. If we don't see the VMAX, David's got the cards at hand to make this work, has the switch to reset Brave Blade, has the Boss's Orders, so it's going to be on Azul to find some cards, but taking a time here, I don't know if Azul has anything.
Yeah, definitely thinking through the options. You know, worst case scenario, you can find the VMAX to prevent yourself from just losing straight up on the next turn. As we are going to see the Scoop Up Net going to go ahead and pick up the Zigzagoon. That tells me there is no VMAX, not in the hand quite yet, but we will see Pokemon Communication put Zigzagoon back, and we could see Azul go ahead and dig here, try to dig for that Boss's Orders plus the energy. Going to play it a little slower, just get this Urshifu VMAX, and has the research as well. Still has the option to win with the copy of Great Catcher that he plays. Great Catcher plus an energy is the game. Does he have it? There's the Great Catcher. Brings the Dene GX up. Is the energy in hand? If it is, Azul is going to move on to the next round of losers bracket play. What an insane turn out of nowhere. Being reset stamped to 3 cards. Azul still able to close it out. Played it very, very well. Played to the outs. We saw he was really thinking through exactly how to play it there. Got the Scoop Up Net. Went ahead in Communication, found the Urshifu VMAX, and man, insane. Finding that one of Great Catcher, that one tech item card, paying off.